Hey everybody, this is Dr. Flight. I hope you're doing well. Hope you're doing good. We have a video here, a lecture that will walk through some basic branding strategies. Now, these strategies are pretty well-known strategies, um, but branding is an art in a lot of ways. So while there are strategies to follow, and reasons why we do those strategies, there's also a lot of nuance involved in the art of branding. So, this is going to be more of a focus on the firm's interpretation of the brand and how the brand will help position a product or a firm or the company structurally. So that's what a lot of the branding strategies do. We'll spend a lot of time talking about the benefits of these strategies from a brand's perspective and going on from there. So let's talk a little bit then about products and brands and just sort of describe what these things are. A brand then is a name, a term, symbol, sign, or design, or combination. And the brand itself, its purpose is to identify a specific product or company and distinguish it from competition. So your brand is unique. It's not like other brands, and customers, of course, will see that. Marketers, though, also believe that brands provide value above and beyond the benefits the product does itself. So some people buy the product strictly for the benefits of the product. Other people, though, buy products because of the brand that's associated with it or that's attached to it. So that's certainly what we want to kind of think about as we develop this idea of an image, distinguishing your product and your company from that of competition and allowing customers to be able to recognize your brand, recognize your product, and pay additional dollars in order to get it. So customer benefits that the customer may have. For the customers, brands convey information. When you see a brand, you infer what that brand is all about, what it stands for, what it means. And now those meanings are gained over time. They don't just happen. It's something that is developed for a long period of time. You'll know that some brands are known for, like BMW, for great engineering, and the things that they do along that are very skilled, and that's one of the things a brand is known for. So anytime somebody sees a BMW logo, because if they know that, they will convey that information to the customer. Brands also have the ability to convey qualities of the product or service as well. Quality is one of those. So different features that brands may have can be expected to perform as they should over and over and over again in a predictable way if the brand is consistent. Brands confer status for the customers. So some people buy brands because they help their self-image or self-esteem. They also use brands as a signaling tool to others to let them know sort of what, maybe a social statement, or maybe let them know how affluent they are, things like that. A couple more benefits for the customer. Buying a brand that you're familiar with reduces your risk of making a bad decision. So in other words, if you know a brand consistently delivers good quality and is known for certain features and benefits, then when you buy products with that brand, you can feel like you're going to make a good decision, and oftentimes reduces your risk in order to be able to buy that. Finally, it helps reduce consumers' search costs. So every time you go to buy a product, it takes time and effort and energy to do so. If you have to search all the time for the product or brand that you want, that takes time. But if you already know you want a specific branded product, you can go right to the store, buy that, and not spend a lot of time or effort in search for that phase of the decision-making process. Okay, so lots of consumer benefits. Then the consumer has a lot of interest in being able to have a brand. In fact, branding, the use of brands oftentimes provides a framework or a schematic that customers will use in order to make sense of the very complicated brandscape or world around them when they go out to shop and be consumers. For the firm, there are also a lot of fantastic benefits that the company can benefit through, right? So having a strong brand creates unity among customers, and ultimately they keep coming back, and they are comfortable with the brand. They become fans of your brand. They become loyal to your brand. While also, if you have a strong brand, part of your brand value and part of the way we measure equity is if customers are willing to spend more for your product than your competitors as a result of the brand that you offer or that you have. So certainly charging a price premium is a benefit to the customer if this is the case. It helps companies develop their segmenting, targeting, and positioning strategies. So being brand strong allows you to launch new products, but also lets you launch products in new markets. So if one market is familiar with your brand in one dimension, offering new products to that brand or bringing your product to new markets again. It's easier if your brand is well established than if you have a brand new brand nobody knows about. That's the worst, that's the most challenging thing you can have. So if you have an established brand, expanding and implementing growth strategies is much, much easier, right? Having a strong brand inoculates the brand from bad things that could happen, either bad public relations, or bad events, or stiff competition. It can all be buffered, if you will, by having a strong brand. Now, having a strong brand doesn't eliminate those problems, but it helps reduce the impact of those problems if your brand is powerful. And then finally, what I'll mention here is that strong brands will, and having a lot of brand strategy, if you will be positively viewed by external partners. So people who are associated with the company, but not necessarily the company themselves. So in this case, I talk about channel partners specifically, so distributors and retailers and anybody who handles the product after you towards the customer. They'll all enjoy having your product if it's a strong brand because they know customers want that product. So again, having a strong brand, being a market share leader, having a lot of equity or value in your brand identity and assets, it causes others to want to be a part of what you're doing, and so that's a fantastic thing as well. So just think about all the positives that happen when you think about company benefits and also consumer benefits. That's why branding plays such an integral part of our world around us today, but also strategy as well. So let's talk a little bit more about some of this strategy and different strategies companies can use. So why would Starbucks look at their logo in 1971 and say, hey, maybe we should make a difference, or maybe we should make a change? Remember, in year 1971, Starbucks, it says coffee, tea, and spices, right? And the logo is the image of the lady there, and with a brown label, which is fine. 1987, many years later, the logo is updated. Now, when we update logos, one of the things it does is it energizes the market base and it reintroduces the product and it makes you look fresh and new. Even though your name might be older, the new logo and new slogans and things that you say can definitely help you grow more business or new business by energizing the marketplace that's there. 1992, a little bit more of an update on the interior image, making the the lady larger there, and a little bit bigger. And then 2011, you'll notice that the word coffee is dropped. We also drop Starbucks themselves. They go just strictly with their logo. And one of the reasons why we do this, when we simplify our logo, it actually allows the company to expand. So instead of being referred to as Starbucks Coffee and just simply Starbucks, then it makes an easier path for them to offer other products that you might want to have with the actual, under the umbrella, or under the corporate reach, I would say, of Starbucks. So Starbucks today is the core brand, but within Starbucks, kind of inside Starbucks, there's Seattle's Best Coffee, which doesn't carry their name at all, right? You don't even know Seattle's Best is a Starbucks branded item. Starbucks water, apparel, 15th Avenue, I think that's coffee. And skateboards, of all things. How about that? With a little bit of a different lady in between, or logo. But the point here is that by, again, bringing your logo to a basic kind of core lets you actually expand if you want to down the road. Instead of being too narrow and focusing only on coffee, we can focus on other things as well. So this is like one idea of, kind of thinking about how brands evolve maybe over time, and how things can definitely, kind of change as you change and your firm changes itself. Okay, so a strategy we'll talk about then is something called the umbrella branding strategy. Kellogg's, lots of companies use an umbrella branding strategy. So for instance, Kellogg's, if you take all the different Kellogg's cereals, now this is in the cereal space in Kellogg's, Kellogg's, whatever the brand, the cereal is, they'll have, all their cereals named Kellogg. And this is a umbrella branding strategy when each of the products in your portfolio are named in part by your core brand. Kraft uses this: Kraft macaroni and cheese, Kraft mayonnaise, Kraft dressings. What happens is every time that you create a new product or bring a new product out, it makes it easier for the public to accept this product and to bring this product into their home with the brand they already know and they already understand. This helps, like launch that new product with already a high level of awareness, because again, people are familiar with that brand and brand concept. You're just extending the brand into maybe a new product, or maybe you're using a line extension and just deviating, making a new product adjustment, but still using that same name. So it makes a lot of sense to be able to do this. This helps out in a lot of ways when we think about the expense of creating a new product. Part of that expense is creating its name and its logo and its imaging and building awareness for this new concept. If it carries an existing name that people already know, well, then that's a good thing, right? That'll help that product launch even faster. There are all kinds of different examples of this. Here's Honda, though. Honda uses the name Honda for many of its products. But think of all the different product lines. In other words, all the different areas of business that Honda does business in. Automobiles, that's like one product category. Motorcycles, another product category. Scooters, jet skis, and so on and so forth, all the way to engines and generators and pumps, right? All of these, and small engines, that would be snow blowers, lawn mowers, all those, anything that has an engine in it. Oftentimes Honda has a product in that product category, but they use the name Honda across all of these different spaces. So the Honda name is used over and over and over again in very, very effective fashions. Okay, another strategy. So an alternate strategy, which is going to be kind of like the opposite of an umbrella strategy, will be a individual branding strategy. Sometimes this is called a house of brand strategy. Okay, so Procter and Gamble does this, where they'll have a product category. Maybe it's a cleaning agent. And in the cleaning agent space, whether it's dish detergent or laundry detergent or some type of mopping detergent or soap, P&G, Procter and Gamble, they will have multiple products in that same category. Each of those products, though, will have a different name. So Tide, Bold, Mr. Clean, and so on and so forth. They have dozens and dozens and dozens of brand names. So they take a collection of those. Collectively, they come up. But there's really not, I'm gonna double check this, but I don't think there are any products that are actually called Procter and Gamble. Procter and Gamble is like it's like a composite. It's like a collection of brands that they offer. Clorox, the Clorox Corporation. As you know, the Clorox Corporation has Clorox bleach and many other cleaning agents where they use different names, but they also have other non-cleaning agent products in their corporate portfolio. Burt's Bees, for instance, Hidden Valley, KC Masterpiece. Burt's Bees is an interesting one because a lot of people would be just abhorred if they knew that this Clorox, this bleach company, owned Burt's Bees. And Burt's Bees was a subsidiary of these caustic chemicals that are coming out of Clorox. So what they do is they keep the brands very separate. They never share the same name. They never share the same space. And by doing this, they keep the brands separate. This is again individual branding or house of brands. Even though the company owns all these brands, they keep these names separate. So this is completely different from, say, Honda, who puts their name on absolutely everything. So again, it's a different approach. One of the big benefits of doing this is that if something happens to one brand that's negative, the negative impairment won't bleed over into other product categories. So like if Honda had a really serious corporate issue or problem with one of their brands, people might start associating bad quality with all Honda products, not just the product that experienced that difficulty. It might bleed over, that negativity might bleed over into lots of different areas. So again, this is an insulating type of a strategy. You don't gain the benefit of leveraged goodwill, like when you launch a new product. You have to launch the product and you have to create a new name and a new brand for it. There's a lot of work to do there, but it makes kind of sense. You can use Clorox bleach, but you can also use Burt's Bees, and you never know that those two products are related in any way, shape, or form. Another example of the house of brands approach, kind of like we did with Honda, only now the house of brands or the individual approach. Take Frito-Lay. Look at just kind of the different brands that are owned and operated and part of the Frito-Lay sort of space. With corn chips, with potato chips, you have all these different brand names. The Cheetos cheese snacks has a number of different extensions into it. Doritos, Tostitos. Again, just look at the image here. Pause the tape if you need to, but just consider all of the different brands that are labeled under this one company. And now, obviously, they compete with each other. So there's going to be like one company with lots of parts that compete against each other in the marketplace, but that's the strategy, and that's the way this is designed more or less to work. Okay, so this would be the house of brand approach. Some other strategies then. We're going to talk about something called brand extensions. So a brand extension is when you take a product that's in a line and then you extend the product or the brand name either in that line, so you add products in the line to it, variations or nuances, small changes to an existing product and just give it a different name but the same brand. That's a product line. Or you can take the brand name and put it and attach it to a completely new category, and that would be a category extension as opposed to a line extension. So here's another example. This is a really good one. This actually illustrates something called a product array for lean, and this is for lean cuisine. Now, we get into this in particular when we start talking about product array charts. There's something called the product mix and then the product line. And if we look horizontally across the brand extensions, going from lean or casual cuisine to market creations to spa cuisine and so on and so forth, every time we add a new product concept, that's a new extension that extends into the category deeper. So we have different types of foods that are being offered. And you can kind of see here under each of these foods, under each of these like casual cuisine, here we have 3 different product types. There's pizzas, there's sandwiches, and there's snacks. Now, there are 11 different types of pizza, 10 different types of sandwiches, and 3 different snacks. So they actually have 24 products in this one product line. And if we added more products, if there was something else that we added in here, like maybe it was a wrap, like a sandwich wrap of some type, that would be an extension of the line, a line extension. So again, consider the idea that we could use lean cuisine as the name across all of these different product categories, and so that's horizontally, but then also in a depth perspective vertically, every time we add variations to a product category, continue to use lean cuisine. So lean cuisine can be leveraged, that name, in lots of different spaces. Now, remember, the lean cuisine concept is for healthy food that will be nutritionally balanced. That's a good choice to be able to use. The last thing I'll mention here is that lean cuisine is owned by Stouffer's. Stouffer's has a number of other different product brands. So lean cuisine itself is using this idea of extending products into the categories by doing line and category extensions, right? So very, very innovative, very creative, but makes sense. It's just kind of common sense in terms of the way this works. Okay, a couple more strategies then we can talk about. Co-branding. When 2 brands that are separate, 2 separate brands decide to collaborate, they might do what's called a joint venture. And when they do a joint venture, they create a new product with elements of both of their brands together. When Apple and Nike, who are otherwise completely separate from each other, categories, everything, when they get together and they put a shoe that has tracking abilities that link to your Apple phone, that's the creation of a joint venture and a co-branding opportunity. So certainly co-branding works well when you're introducing new products, but it also works well if you want to reach new markets in innovative ways as well. Another strategy that involves a couple different companies would be something called ingredient branding. In ingredient branding, we have one product, but then inside the product, as a component part, we have a second brand. So we have one brand that's called the parent brand. And then inside that parent brand, there is a subordinate brand, a brand that plays a secondary role inside that brand. When American Airlines combines their brand by serving Starbucks coffee is literally a component of the product or service that's being offered by American Airlines. Sometimes we use the reference of Dell computers that have an Intel processor inside. Intel is like an ingredient, it's a component part of the computer, which is the parent of Dell. So you're buying the computer, you're buying a Dell computer, but you're getting this secondary brand also in the mix with you. Okay, also, and we're going to kind of look a little bit further here, right? Self-branding. Self-branding is when you create a brand within a brand. We had the Stofers with Lean Cuisine. If Lean Cuisine created its own flavor profile, they could make that into a sub brand. When Mountain Dew created Baja Blast and then used Baja Blast in a lot of different other kind of applications, if they use that flavor profile to do other things, Baja Blast is a new brand that was created under Mountain Dew. So the other example that's listed here, Tide, has a scent, a special scent called Everfresh as a scent. So Tide's Everfresh, excuse me, is something that you could use as well. Right? Private labels. Private labels is another way we can think about branding and branding strategy. Now, each one of these may be very specific to a situation. You're not going to use all of these branding strategies, right? But depending on the branding context, you'll use some of these. So private labels is when a smaller company looks to copy a larger, more established product space. And a brand is subsequently created. See this all the time with larger grocery stores, larger convenience stores, larger chain stores that have the volume that can handle this. So grocery stores, pharmacies, convenience stores, they will create their version of a commoditized product and put their label on it and then sell it as their label alongside national brands. So the opposite then of a private label would be called a national brand, and that's what it's called. If you're not a private label, like Kraft is a national brand, Kraft mac and cheese, national brand. Kroger, Publix, Food Lion, they may very well have their own version of macaroni and cheese, and they'll call it their version, and their private label of what that is will sit next to whatever the national brand is as well, and it'll be there. So this actually is beneficial in lots and lots of different ways. Number one, it's beneficial to the retailer, of course, because they're offering customers a different price point and a different quality point. It also allows the national brand to actually stand apart from local alternatives. So it could actually enhance the national brand's prestige and reputation, which is a good thing. But also what it does is it creates capacity for manufacturers, which is another big benefit. So good strategy all the way around. Interesting strategy. Again, not always applicable in every situation, but one that you should be comfortable knowing about. Okay, some more strategies then that we'll look at. So this would be kind of wrapping up the strategy area just in general. And basically the idea here is that we don't always brand in a domestic environment. Sometimes we do branding globally, right? So we bring our brand to a new market, and that new market is very foreign or unfamiliar to us, and they're unfamiliar with us. So this brings a big challenge on how we bring a brand to a new market that we don't know anything about, and where there may be a lot of cultural inconsistencies across what they expect and what we do. So there's basically three strategies when thinking about global branding, and this is really an international branding topic. So we could spend an entire semester talking about what this is all about. But basically, the three things here deal with standardization. Standardization means that we're going to take our brand as it is, and we are not going to alter it. We're going to take it to the new market, and we're going to put it in the new market with the brand concept that we've already established. Now, we might have to change the packaging a little bit to obviously to meet local regulations. That's fine. But the color schemes, the words we use, the names, the slogans, we try to keep them pretty consistent. So we don't have a new product. We have the same product, the same name, all of that stays the same. We have Gillette as an example of that idea there. Okay, another idea, so second one is adaptation of positioning. Okay, so this might be one where we think of the camera, in this case it's Canon, it's selling a camera worldwide, but in specific markets, the way we position the product, it'll be positioned as a slightly different concept. I like to use the example for this as like Mercedes. In Europe, Mercedes is a far more common brand. It's less exclusive, and you'll see Mercedes trucks, you'll see Mercedes utility vehicles, you'll see them, kind of in lots of different contexts. In North America and in the US in particular, Mercedes is typically reserved as strictly a luxury brand. It is known as a luxury high-end automobile in the US, whereas in other parts of the world, it's known as just kind of a regular vehicle that you'd use for work. Again, completely different position conceptually between these markets, and now Mercedes has to have this positioning strategy, and they've chosen it for a reason. All the different markets that they're in. Okay, the last thing that we'll do is this idea called adaptation of brands. And this is one where, in particular, it's a good idea to have local partners or joint venture opportunities with other branding or other companies that are in the new market that you're going to. So General Mills certainly produces cereal products in the US, but they also produce cereal, and it's sold in Europe under very different names, under very different product brands, different packaging. In fact, they joint venture with Nestle, which is a European corporation, worldwide corporation, but rooted in Switzerland and in Europe. And this idea may also be referred to or considered something called glocalization. So glocalization is when you standardize operations on the mass scale, but when it comes to selling and positioning the product, you position it locally to a local market. So there's global advantages in scale and production and some things like that take place. So in other words, the cereal can be produced in mass, and the processes can be used, like to produce the cereal worldwide. But when it comes to packaging and naming it, we'll do it at a very local level. That's called glocalization, when you brand locally, but you look to sell the product or manufacture and gain efficiencies of scale on an international basis. Okay, so we've covered a whole bunch of different branding strategies. Again, they all have significant reasons for existing. I mean, we do these all for very strategic reasons. And there are nuances of each of these, but at the end of the day, these are the big ones to kind of know about and think about as you move forward. Obviously, let me know if you have any questions. Please ask, and we'll go from there. Thanks.